Hey folks, Real Honesty with Jarmithland. I'm Jarmithland. This is a 20-year reflection, a two-part 20-year reflection on the death of Brian Pillman that happened October 5th, 1997, which was also the morning of the WWE In Your House Bad Blood pay-per-view. That had a couple fairly memorable matches, including the first ever Hell in a Cell match. I did a career retrospective, so to speak, a memorial video back in 2015 about Brian Pillman, so I'll keep this one short, but suffice to say that if there was ever anybody that should have been a goddamn star, it should have been Brian Pillman. It is a shame that accident, that car accident happened, or Humvee, actually, I think it was. It was an SUV accident that ended up, wrecking his ankle, and he wasn't really able to perform as well. Even though I think he could have had a good 20, 30 years on commentary because he was just that good. Well, maybe 20 years. I don't know, about 30. Brian Pillman just had that incredible wit, that incredible knowledge. And he had that incredible knowledge of wrestling, but also incredible knowledge of world events and stuff like that. The Brian Pillman documentary that WWE did, Brian Pillman Loose Cannon, people talked about how, like a couple of radio hosts, one in particular, talked about how Pillman could come on, talk about sports, talk about anything, and really know a lot of stuff about it. He was very well read. So, few things of Brian Pillman's career. He was a great, football player, worked hard, overcame throat cancer, battles with throat cancer. I forget the exact condition of it, but he had a lot of polyps on his throat, and that's what gave him his voice. And gave him the raspy voice and everything and this kind of stuff, and he was, because of the medical condition, he was undersized, but he worked hard, and he really, really worked hard at football. Got better and became a walk-on in Miami of Ohio, did well there. Got on the Cincinnati Bengals, did well there. I forget the exact Courage Award that he got. I forget the exact Courage Award that he got. I'm sorry. I'm blanking a little bit there. But I know that he was very well respected by his teammates. Unfortunately, injuries forced him out of football. Then he got into wrestling. Was part of Stampede Wrestling for a bit. Got noticed by WCW. Was flying Brian Pillman. JR was smart to sign him. I believe JR had a hand in signing him, which is great because Pillman, very few deaths hurt me as much as Pillman's. And I feel bad like ranking them, but if I had to, Pillman's would be up there as far as ones that hurt me. Same with Owen and Eddie. Eddie's probably hurt me the most. I won't do a reflection on his death. I will mention it on my November 13th Raw review that I do, because it will be 12 years to the day that he died. But with Pillman, you think about when he first arrived on the scene and he wrestled Lex Luger at Halloween Havoc 89 and did well, and he had some good runs and actually would have been challenging Flair for the WCW Heavyweight Championship, but no, Jim Herd and Jim Barnett and a few other idiots, they didn't know a goddamn thing about the wrestling business, and Jim Barnett didn't know anything about it. Near to Jim Herd. So it's weird that the two guys named Jim, knew nothing about the wrestling business. Yeah, another Jim Ross, actually knew quite a bit and still does know quite a bit about the wrestling business. Pillman was undercut drastically in WCW, which is a shame, at least in his initial run. Even though he had some good matches in 89 and stuff like that. And then in 91, he became the WCW Light Heavyweight Champion. I believe he defeated Ricky Morton at Halloween Havoc 1991, if I recall. If it wasn't Halloween Havoc, it was soon after. But I do recall around that time, a Light Heavyweight Championship being created. Pillman wanted to make it mean more than any championship that was currently in WCW. Make it more important than the WCW Championship. Which, at the time, Lex Luger was champion, so that really wouldn't have been that hard. All you had to do was basically evolve beyond Pond Scum, and you were better than Lex Luger. He was a great performing heel, but he couldn't wrestle for shit. Pillman could wrestle circles around him. You think about the great matches that Pillman had. That the match that sticks out in my mind is Super Brawl 2 against Jushin Thunder Liger. One of the best opening matches at a pay-per-view. One of the best ever. one of the best goddamn matches ever. It's, in a year of 1992, especially on WCW pay-per-views, when matches were really, really good. Now, yeah, some of them weren't all that good, but the 1992 pay-per-views, usually top to bottom, were pretty damn good. And Pillman and Liger managed to stick out on a pretty stacked card. I mean, Luger and Sting main evented, and there were a couple other good matches on that card. But Pillman and Liger just cut such a great pace. And they did so well there. And then they would even be part of the first ever Nitro. They would open the very first WCW Nitro. And Pillman had just come back from a leg injury like a couple months before, and had wrestled Alex Wright in a great match where Pillman started to show a little bit of that heel turn, a little bit of that loose cannon, character, where fans were really happy because they didn't want to see Goody Two Shoes, Brian. They were sick of Alex Wright already, and boy, Pillman went nuts on him. But also, he did have he had a good run as light heavyweight champion that did get taken away. Like, I think the title went away sometime in like July or September of '92, which was stupid. Pillman developed a heel turn, wrestled Ricky Steamboat at Halloween Havoc '92. I believe teamed up with Barry Windham. He teamed up with Barry Windham to face Steamboat and Shane Douglas, if I remember right, at Starrcade '92, which was great stuff. That was actually fantastic. It was just so well wrestled. I might be mixing it up with the Clash, the Clash in November '92. So forgive me if I do that. As much as I enjoyed 1992 WCW, sometimes things run together a little bit. But the great thing about Pillman, he became part of another great tag team with the Hollywood Blondes. Him and Steve Austin. Even though Steve Austin initially didn't want to do it, they became such a great team, such a fantastic team. Really a shame that Pillman, when Pillman got injured in '96, if he hadn't gotten injured, I think you would have seen Austin and Pillman team up at some point. In '97, maybe '98, if Pillman hadn't passed away, I think you could have seen Pillman and Austin team up. That would have been so great to see. They were undercut, of course, by the Horsemen, by the fact that Flair was an active booker. I believe Dusty was also a booker, or one of the two was. I think it was Dusty. And Flair might have had a say in it too because he was a top star, but they feuded, and then Pillman, I think, suffered that leg injury at some point in '94, so he was off for most of '94 and '95. And then, like I said, wrestled Alex Wright. He developed a loose cannon character, did really, really well with that. Even scared Bobby Heenan on the Clash of Champions in January, which was great. I mean, and Pillman apologized to Bobby Heenan afterwards. He didn't mean to do anything bad. He was just playing up the loose cannon character. Pillman was also part of the Four Horsemen, which was really, really good because Pillman was just so goddamn out there and so insane. And then that whole strap match thing he did with Sullivan where it's like, it's an I respect match or respect match. I respect you, Booker, man, and did that and left. And then he was part of ECW and then the WWE thing where his ankle got destroyed. Pillman's got a gun, which made me uncomfortable. Still makes me uncomfortable to this day. Because I remember thinking, I think CM Punk even said it best, but I remember watching Raw at the time. I mean, even though I liked Nitro more, I remember thinking, I'm like, the camera cuts, I'm like, did he shoot him? What happened? Yeah, just Pillman's WWE career, unfortunately, he had injuries. He still had that ankle problem. It wasn't going to get much better. Because part of the thing was he wouldn't take the time off for it really to get better. But also, he felt like he let his family down. And he didn't let his family down. He didn't. His widow let his family down by snorting everything up her damn nose. Reportedly. Because that's apparently what she did, according to her oldest daughter. Which wouldn't surprise me, because the girl looked like, the wife, the widow, looked like she had a damn nose job when she did the interviews for the Brian Pillman Loose Cannon piece in 2006. So if true, that woman's a piece of shit. But I'll leave that aside. Brian Pillman, he was part of the Hart Foundation. That was pretty great. Him and Austin could have had a great feud, but he kept getting undercut because of Pillman's injury. He did the feud with Goldust. I'm trying not to make this too long, but he did the feud with Goldust. It was sad because it was a feud that actually could have kept going, but Pillman was supposed to face Dude Love at the Bad Blood pay-per-view in the morning of. Brian Pillman passed away in his hotel room. Part of it, he did have drug issues and it was heart failure. That That was part of it. It's sad. It's a sad, sad story. It really is, because Pillman was supposed. I don't know how far Pillman would have gone had his ankle even recovered. I don't know how far he would have gone. Would have been interesting to see him face Dude Love, though. That would have been a pretty interesting match. And then I will say this much though, Vince. I just want to do a quick little blurb about this before I go to the pay-per-view. Vince interviewing Pillman's widow the night after Pillman died. What the fuck, Vince? I mean, that Vince won't watch this, but that was really fucking tasteless. And I don't care if he cleared it with the wife. I don't care. I mean, obviously he did. That was tasteless as fuck. That really, really was. That was not good at all. It was, it was not good. But Brian Pillman will be, to me, at least as fans as old as me, I'm 36, will remember him as being one hell of a talent. And a what could have been case if there ever was one. Sure, the drug issues were a part of it. Obviously, he had drug issues. But the ankle injury and stuff like that, you have to wonder if Pillman would have been able to keep going had he not suffered that injury. Or had he been able to recover from that injury. We'll never know. But Brian Pillman, one of the biggest what-if stars, and definitely a pretty big star. Somebody who had a career that unfortunately was a little brief, but he made a lot of memorable moments. And had some matches that still stick in my mind. I mean, that match with Jushin Thunder Liger that I mentioned is a match. If I had to pick a match to show somebody, why do you like wrestling? If somebody asked that. That would be one of the 10 matches I would show them. Because even now, it holds up really, really well. Sure, there are a few goofy pins and stuff like that, but they really just had such a great aerial battle. It was just so great. And I'm not talking about the font or the character from The Little Mermaid. But now we go to Bad Blood in Your House. The card had a couple things thrown together because Pillman passed away, which was announced on the Free For All show. So, yeah, I mean, Dude Love wasn't on the pay-per-view, but you had Nation of Domination, Rocky Maivia, Kama Mustafa, and D'Lo Brown. They were supposed to face LOD and Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was injured. Farouk even interfered, which allowed Rocky to hit the rock bottom after Hawk got double teamed in 1, 2, 3. So, okay. It wasn't bad. I mean, the Nation was still fairly hot at this point, though Rocky clearly was a breakout star. D'Lo less so. I mean, and D'Lo was a good worker. D'Lo was just never more than a mid-card guy. Not a bad match, though. Honestly, not a bad match. Max, Mini, and Nova versus Tarantula and Mosaic. These guys would actually face off as part of a 6-man tag at the 1998 Royal Rumble, which it was a midget match, and King made short. People made short jokes, so that's what it was. It wasn't bad. I give these little guys credit, but you seen one midget match, you've seen them all. The Godwins with Uncle Cletus. Uncle Cletus, a slack-jawed yokel, who was actually known as the Dirty White Boy in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I mean, if you've seen Smoky Mountain Wrestling, you would understand that. Smoky Mountain Wrestling had its moments. I mean, I can't say it was all my cup of tea, but I get why people liked it, and I could appreciate the efforts of every talent for it, or every talent in. But the Godwins defeated the Headbangers, which, okay, the Godwins winning the tag team titles was at least more credible, because the Headbangers, they weren't bad workers, but the gimmick was shit. I hate it. And the Godwins winning was nice, even if they didn't hold the titles that long, which they really didn't. At least it was nice they got off the Headbangers, because I probably should have worded that differently. At least it's nice they got the titles off of the Headbangers. Not got off on the titles like Woods and Maddox did with Paige. I swear I wouldn't mention that. The Woods-Maddox experience. I really hope that when Paige comes back and goes to SmackDown that fans give her a fair chance. They won't. And putting her on the same show with Xavier might not be the best idea. I'm not saying that, anything's going to happen, but God, that's going to be uncomfortable. Anyway, not a bad tag team title match. Godwin's win. Cool. Owen Hart defeated Farouk. This was these finals for the vacant Intercontinental Championship that Owen lost to Austin, but Austin had to vacate due to injury, due to a legit neck injury. And Austin was there at ringside to present the title to the winner. Slaughter was there to make sure nothing bad happened. Slaughter got distracted. And of course, I mean, Farouk had interfered in the handicap match earlier. So he kind of got his comeuppance here, even though Austin had no allegiance to the Legion of Doom. He hit Farouk with the title, which allowed Owen to get the win. Because, of course, we were going to have a rematch of Owen versus Austin. That's where we were going to have to go. And, I mean, it was fitting. It was definitely fitting. And it was just scary to think that Austin was going to get back in the ring so soon. I mean, but he took the risk, and kudos to him. He helped launch WWE into the stratosphere with that. That whole McMahon-Austin storyline worked really goddamn well. Then, so it wasn't a bad match. It was very short. I mean, it was very short. And then a match that they just literally threw together, a match that we saw at SummerSlam. 8-man tag, Disciples of the Apocalypse, Crush, Chains, 8-Ball, and Skull defeated Los Bruicos, Savio Vega, and a bunch of guys. They were talented, I just didn't care about them. It was basic, it was 8 minutes, and Disciples of the Apocalypse won. Great. Who the fuck cares? I mean, it really wasn't all that good. I mean, it wasn't horrible, it just wasn't great. Then we go to Bret Hart and the British Bulldog defeating Vader and the Patriot in a flag match, where actually, because of injuries, instead of going up into the corner and getting your flag to win, they decided to have it be, by pinfall or submission because guys were suffering from injuries. Which made sense, and all these guys had feuded before. Vader, Vader's kind of thrown into a whole lot of stuff, and Patriot had feuded with Bret Hart, and Bulldog and Bret had the whole Hart Foundation thing, and that was a pretty good idea to have this match. It made sense, and of course the Patriot got rolled up and won and lost because Bret and Bulldog had to win. But it was a very good undercard match. I mean, for 25 minutes, it was well done, well paced. All these guys could go a really long time. I mean, Vader at this point was starting to kind of break down a little bit, and that's going to happen. I mean, Vader should be in the Hall of Fame. He absolutely should. Bulldog should be in the goddamn Hall of Fame. Patriot, Patriot is a good worker, but I don't really give a shit if the Patriot's anywhere near any Hall of Fame. Bret's already in the Hall of Fame, but Bulldog should be. Bulldog, Owen, and Pillman should be in the Hall of Fame. And if you have to induct the Hart Foundation in to get all those guys in the Hall of Fame, I'm okay with it. Bret can have a second Hall of Fame ring. Because the Hart Foundation was also a tag team. And it would give Jim Neidhart a chance to have a Hall of Fame ring. I mean, it would be a chance for Bulldog, Owen, and Pillman to have a Hall of Fame, moment, even though they're all no longer with us. But it was a good match. It was a pretty good flag match. And enjoyable because they had that stipulation, pinfall or submission. And then Shawn Michaels defeating The Undertaker in the first ever Hell in a Cell match. Number one contendership match. Whoever won got to face Bret Hart at Survivor Series. Well, the champion of Survivor Series. Even though Bret was the champion, so it was obvious it was going to be him. And it was nearly 30 minutes, and it was great. I mean, you had Shawn Michaels running from Taker, getting beat up, and then gaining the advantage over Taker and beating him down. Hitting a pile driver on the steel steps. Ouch. And blood and stuff like that and everything. Getting outside the cage. Which was good stuff. And then getting on top of the cage. And Taker stepping on him. Stepping on his hands and everything, and Shawn falls. I mean, he only falls from halfway up, but still, it was really cool that they did that. And one thing I wanted to say is just before that, a very obvious blade job by Shawn, where Undertaker goes to hot shot Shawn. Shawn goes for a drop kick on the outside. Undertaker catches his legs, and you got him ready to, launch, launch Shawn to the ropes. And I don't know if it's on the network now, because I remember it was on DVD, so they might have added to another shot to not show the obvious blading, but you can see, clear as fucking daylight. So he goes to hot shot him, Shawn, and poof, gets launched and starts bleeding immediately. I mean, look, blading's existed for years and years and years and decades in wrestling. I'm certainly not going to say that. I just find it funny looking at that where it's like, oh, that was obvious. That was an obvious blade job. And then Shawn goes through the announce table. Taker gets a chair because that's how the whole thing started. It was by Shawn accidentally hitting Taker with a chair at SummerSlam 97. Or was it accidental? And then, boom! Hits him. Just... hits him. It was a vicious shot. Let me say that. It was a vicious shot. My God. Taker does his throat slash. Ready. Lights go out. Kane comes out, makes a debut. And Jim Cornette was a big, big reason why the Kane character did well. Because he based it off of Michael Myers. So credit to him. I mean, of course, I think as Jim said, they superheroed him up. But it was great that you had Kane tear the door off his hinges, got in the ring, stared down Undertaker, and then gut shot him, hit him, picked him up for a tombstone, and hit the worst goddamn tombstone that I've seen in a long time. Almost as bad as Mongo McMichael. No one's as bad as Mongo McMichael. But it was Glenn Jacobs, his first time under the Kane mask in front of a live crowd, at least. So, and they did a great job building up the whole Kane angle and everything. So that was great stuff. It just, that's the only thing where I'm just like, oh, that's fucking comical. But it was great. It was a great debut. Shawn manages to cover Taker. 1, 2, 3, and Shawn's just bleeding over the eye and everything. He's covered in blood. So Shawn wins. He doesn't look like the winner, but he wins. But that's really Bad Blood 1997 in a nutshell. It was good for what it was. The two main matches, flag match and first ever Hell in a Cell match, were absolutely wonderful. So they really made up for what was a weak-ish undercard, even though everybody tried. Pillman's death didn't help. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this 2-part 20-year reflection on the death of Brian Pillman and Bad Blood 1997. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? Did you think Bad Blood was a good show? What are some of your favorite Brian Pillman moments? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Also, it's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you all soon.